I still remember the smell of his garage motor oil, old leather, and hope. My husband spent 18 years restoring that car. It was his dream, his escape, and his love letter to me. But last month, I walked into the garage, and it was empty. Gone. Every tool, every memory. When I asked my son where it was, he didn't even flinch. I sold it. My wife wanted Paris. Get over it, Mom. My knees gave out right there on the concrete. That car was all I had left of my husband. 3 days later, the phone rang. "Ma'am," a man said, his voice shaking. "I'm calling from the dealership. Your husband left something inside the car. You need to come now." Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. When I close my eyes, I can still see the day he first brought it home. It wasn't much to look at than just a skeleton of rust, a tired old Mustang barely holding itself together on a worn trailer. I remember standing in the driveway, arms crossed, wondering what in the world he saw in that heap of metal. He turned to me with that boyish grin I fell in love with decades ago, and said, "One day, she'll run again, just like us." I didn't understand it then, but that car was more than a project. It was his way of keeping our marriage alive, of proving that broken things could be mended if you loved them long enough. I brought him lemonade that first summer afternoon, and as he wiped sweat from his brow, he whispered to himself, "We're going to make her beautiful again, Mary." From that moment, I knew this car wasn't just his dream, it was our story. Each night, the hum of tools echoed through the walls, blending with the sound of old country songs playing softly from a dusty radio. There were nights I'd wake up past midnight and see the garage light still on, glowing like a heartbeat in the dark. I'd wrap myself in my robe and carry him a cup of coffee, watching as his hands, rough, steady, and stained with oil, caressed each part like it was alive. The smell of metal and gasoline became part of our home. When friends stopped by, they'd shake their heads and laugh, asking when he'd finally give up on that rust bucket. But I saw something in his eyes they didn't. A quiet determination, the same kind that once held our marriage together through harder times. He wasn't just fixing a car. He was reminding himself and me that love takes time, patience, and a little faith. Years turned into decades. There were birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays spent inside that small garage. Our children grew, our hair turned gray, but the car remained a constant, slowly transforming from a dream into something tangible. I remember the night he finally got the engine to start. It was winter, snow falling outside, the kind that blanketed everything in silence. Then, from the garage, came a roar so loud it startled the neighbors. He laughed like a child, tears streaming down his cheeks, calling me over. "She's alive, Mary. She's really alive." We stood there, side by side, watching that engine rumble to life, our hands intertwined. That was the same night he told me, "This car will outlive both of us. And one day, it'll take care of you." I laughed it off, thinking it was just his way of being sentimental. But now, those words haunt me. He'd polish every inch of it, taking pride in the details no one else would notice, the way the chrome gleamed under sunlight, how the red paint shimmered like fire at dusk. He even carved our initials under the dashboard, small and hidden, just for us. That Mustang held our laughter, our arguments, and the silent moments when we didn't need to speak. It saw us through job losses, the birth of our grandchildren, and the slow passage of time that neither of us could stop. And even when illness began to weaken him, he'd still make his way to that garage. I'd find him sitting in the driver's seat, eyes closed, fingers resting on the steering wheel as if it were her hand. "I'm almost done," he'd whisper. But he never truly was. He was still tightening bolts and tuning dreams until the very end. When the cancer spread too far, he couldn't walk to the garage anymore. So, I brought the garage to him, photos, the car key, and that small metal emblem he'd spent hours restoring. I placed them beside his bed. His voice was barely more than a breath when he said, "Promise me, Mary, don't let anyone touch the Mustang. She's yours now. Everything you need is in her." I nodded, not fully grasping what he meant. I thought he was talking about memories, not secrets. But when I found that empty space in the garage, when my son's careless words shattered what was left of me, I finally understood. That car wasn't just steel and paint. It was our life welded together by love, loss, and everything in between. And as I stood there in the silence of that hollow garage, I could still feel him around me, the echo of his laughter, the warmth of his hands, the promise that somehow, even in death, he hadn't left me completely alone. That car held more than just the story of a man restoring a dream. It held the proof that love can survive time, betrayal, and even the grave. And whatever he left inside it, I knew it was something meant for me, something that would change everything. It was 3 days after I found the garage empty when the call came. I had barely slept. Every night felt like a replay of loss, of silence pressing against the walls. I would wake up and look out the window, half expecting to see the Mustang's red shine in the morning light. But the driveway stayed bare, cold, and hollow, just like my heart. I thought I'd already lost everything, until the phone rang that morning. The man on the other end sounded uneasy. "Ma'am? Mrs. Dawson?" "Yes," I said, my voice rough from crying. "This is Daniel from Silverline Classic Auto. I'm calling about your Mustang." My heart stopped. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. "My Mustang? What about it?" He hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. Something wasn't right. "Mrs. Dawson," he said softly, "you really should come see this yourself." For a second, I couldn't speak. My mind spun between fear and confusion. Why would a dealer call me? My son said it was already sold, paid for, gone. My lips trembled as I finally whispered, "Did my son tell you to call?" "No, ma'am. In fact, he doesn't even know I'm calling. But I think your husband meant for this to reach you." The world seemed to tilt. My knees weakened, and I gripped the counter for balance. "My husband's been gone for years," I said softly. There was a pause, then his voice came again, careful, steady. "Yes, ma'am. But he left something inside that car. And it's personal." My throat tightened. My husband had once told me that the Mustang would take care of me. Could this be what he meant? "What exactly did he leave?" I asked, trying to sound calm. "Ma'am," the dealer said, almost apologetically, "it's best if you come see it in person. We've kept it sealed, just like we found it." I didn't even change out of my nightgown before I grabbed my keys. The drive to the dealership felt endless, each mile heavier than the last. My hands trembled on the steering wheel, my mind replaying every memory of him, his laughter, the sound of his wrench hitting metal, his promise that the car would take care of me. As I pulled into Silverline Auto, the sight of the Mustang hit me like a punch to the chest. She was parked in the far corner, gleaming under the sun, more beautiful than ever. My eyes burned. That was our car, the one we built together, the one my son had sold for a vacation. A man in his 40s, with kind eyes and grease on his shirt, stepped out from behind the counter as I entered. "Mrs. Dawson?" "Yes," I managed to say, clutching my purse like it was my lifeline. "I'm Daniel. I'm sorry for calling you out of the blue, but when the car came in, something didn't sit right with me. We were cleaning it for the new owner when we found this." He walked to his desk and opened a drawer, pulling out a small envelope, worn, yellowed around the edges, but sealed tightly. My eyes immediately locked on the handwriting across the front. My breath hitched. In his familiar scrawl were 4 simple words: "To my wife, Mary." My knees buckled, and I had to grip the edge of the counter to steady myself. My husband's handwriting. There was no mistaking it. The way he always looped the Y just a little too high. The faint smudge from where his hand dragged across the ink. I hadn't seen his writing in years. "I found it taped under the dashboard," Daniel explained gently. "Your husband must have hidden it there. It was wrapped in a small plastic bag to keep it safe. Looked intentional. I didn't want to give it to anyone but you." Tears welled in my eyes as I reached out, hands trembling, to take the envelope. The paper was soft and fragile, almost like it had been waiting for this moment. For me. "Did you read it?" I asked quietly. He shook his head. "No, ma'am. Didn't seem right. Whatever's in there, it's between you and him." For a moment, I couldn't bring myself to open it. My husband's voice echoed in my memory. "Everything you need is in her." I had thought he meant comfort or memories. But now, standing there with that envelope pressed against my chest, I realized he meant something deeper. I thanked Daniel, though my voice broke halfway through the words. He nodded respectfully, stepping back as I turned toward the car. I ran my fingers along the Mustang's hood, feeling the warmth of the metal beneath the sun. "You kept his secret all this time," I whispered to it, tears falling freely now. "You really did take care of me." I sat in the driver's seat, the same seat where he once spent endless nights dreaming. For a long time, I just sat there, staring at the envelope resting on my lap. My heart pounded with a strange mix of dread and hope. Then, as the world outside faded into silence, I whispered, "All right, sweetheart, let's see what you left for me." But before I tore it open, I hesitated because once I did, I knew everything would change. If you've ever loved someone so deeply that even their memory feels alive, take a second right now to like this video. It may seem small, but it helps us share more stories like this, stories of love, loss, and quiet revenge with people who need to hear them too. The rain began the moment I turned the key in the ignition. Heavy, merciless drops drummed against the windshield, blurring the world outside. I sat alone in the driver's seat, clutching the yellowed envelope in trembling hands. The dealership lot had emptied out hours ago, but I couldn't bring myself to leave. It felt as though the universe itself was waiting, like the rain had come to bear witness to whatever I was about to uncover. I traced my husband's handwriting one last time before I carefully broke the seal. The sound of the paper tearing was quiet, but it echoed through the silence of the car like a confession. Inside was a folded letter, edges soft with age, ink slightly faded. My chest tightened as I began to read, my tears blurring the words that carried his voice back to me. "If you're reading this," the letter began, "it means our Mustang found its way into the wrong hands." I froze. His tone was calm, but firm, like he knew this day would come. "I never wanted you to find this letter under these circumstances, but if you have, then something went wrong. I told you once that the car would take care of you, and I meant it. Beneath the driver's seat, you'll find something that belongs to you and only you." I covered my mouth, tears spilling freely now. The letter continued. "When I started restoring this car, I wasn't just rebuilding a dream, I was building a promise. I knew life can be cruel, that sometimes even the people we love might forget what really matters. But I wanted you to know that my love for you is not just memory, it's protection. Whatever happens, this car will always be your safe place." The words sank deep into my chest, each one a heartbeat of the man I'd loved and lost. My hands shook as I placed the letter on the passenger seat. The rain outside grew louder, and I could almost hear his voice through it, that familiar warmth, that gentle confidence that used to calm my storms. "Beneath the driver's seat, you'll find something," the sentence repeated in my mind, louder each time. My breath quickened. I leaned forward, tugging at the edge of the leather seat cushion, feeling for something hidden. For a moment, there was nothing but smooth fabric and cold metal. Then, my fingers brushed against something solid. My heart nearly stopped. There was a small, rectangular panel, barely noticeable unless you knew where to look. I pulled it up, and there it was. A small metal box, tarnished with time, but clearly preserved with care. A single word was etched into the lid in the same handwriting I'd just read, "For Mary." I didn't open it immediately. My breath came in short bursts, my tears mixing with the rainwater dripping from my coat. The sound of thunder rolled softly in the distance. I could almost feel his presence beside me, as if he was sitting in the passenger seat, smiling that soft, knowing smile he always wore when he'd finished a surprise for me. I ran my fingers across the letters of my name, whispering, "You always did know how to keep me guessing, didn't you?" I turned the latch slowly. Inside, wrapped in an old piece of cloth, were several small items. Our wedding photo, slightly faded, a charm bracelet he'd given me on our 10th anniversary, and a folded document. My heart pounded as I unfolded it. It was a certificate of ownership. The Mustang, restored and polished, legally transferred to my name years ago. He had done it before he passed. My son had no right to sell it. My husband had made sure the car would always belong to me. My tears came harder now. Each drop hit the paper like rain on tin. There was one more note inside the box, written in his same familiar hand. "If the world ever makes you feel like you've lost everything, remember, this love isn't something people can sell or take away. It's the one thing that remains, even after we're gone." I sat there in the car, sobbing quietly, clutching the box to my chest. The rain outside softened into a steady rhythm, like the heartbeat of the world slowing down to match mine. The grief that had crushed me for years suddenly felt lighter. He had thought of me, even after death. He had protected me from the one betrayal I never saw coming. If this moment broke your heart even a little, don't just scroll away. Someone out there needs to be reminded that love never truly leaves. It just hides in the places we least expect. Hit the like button so this story reaches someone who's missing the person they loved most. I sat there long after the rain stopped, holding the letter, the bracelet, and the title. The car was silent, but it felt alive, breathing with me. And for the first time in years, I whispered into the quiet, "Thank you, sweetheart. You kept your promise." The morning after the storm, the air outside felt heavy, not just from the rain, but from the truth I now carried. I sat at the kitchen table, the metal box beside me, the documents laid neatly in front of me. The house was quiet, except for the faint ticking of the old wall clock my husband had fixed years ago. Every tick sounded like a heartbeat, slow, deliberate, and patient. I'd barely slept. The words from his letter replayed endlessly in my head. "The car will always be your safe place." Now I understood what he meant. That car wasn't just love preserved in steel, it was justice, waiting for its time. And that time had come. I called my son that morning. My voice was steady, though my hands trembled. "Tom, I need you to come over," I said simply. There was a long pause on the other end. "Mom, can it wait? We just got back from—" "No, it can't," I cut in sharply. Something in my tone must have caught his attention, because within the hour, he was at the door. His wife didn't come with him this time. Maybe she thought it was beneath her, or maybe she knew something was coming. When I opened the door, Tom looked uneasy. He tried to smile, but his eyes darted toward the table where the papers were spread out. "What's all this?" he asked, forcing a light laugh. "You're not still upset about the car, are you? Mom, it's done. The money's gone. You'll feel better after a while." His words rolled off him so easily, as if he hadn't destroyed something sacred. I looked at him for a long moment, letting the silence grow thick between us. Finally, I slid the document across the table toward him. He glanced down, confusion flickering across his face. "What's this?" "It's proof," I said quietly. "Proof that you didn't just sell a car, Tom. You sold your father's soul for a vacation." He frowned, looking down at the title certificate, his brow furrowing as he read. "What are you talking about?" "I sold it fair and square, Dad's name." He stopped. His face went pale. "This can't be right." "Oh, it's right," I said, my voice low but unwavering. "Your father made sure of it. He transferred that title to me years before he passed. You never had the right to touch that car, let alone sell it." Tom stepped back, his eyes wide. "Mom, it was just metal, just a car. Why are you making this such a big deal?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady the storm in my chest. No, it wasn't just metal, it was a promise. Every bolt, every piece of chrome, every drop of paint, it carried pieces of us. You knew what it meant to your father. You knew what it meant to me, but you still sold it like it was nothing more than scrap. He opened his mouth to speak, but I lifted my hand. "Don't," I whispered. "You wanted Paris. You wanted to please your wife. Fine. But while you were sipping champagne by the Eiffel Tower, the last piece of your father's life sat in a dealership lot, waiting for someone who truly understood its worth. And you know what's worse, Tom? He knew you'd do something like this. That's why he left everything to me." He sank into the chair across from me, staring at the papers in disbelief. His fingers trembled as he picked up the document again. "So, it's legally yours?" he muttered, his voice small. "Yes," I said, the word sharp and final. "Every nut, every bolt, every inch of that car, it's mine. Your father made sure that what he built for love couldn't be destroyed by greed." The silence that followed was thick, suffocating. Tom didn't look up. His shoulders slumped, his head bowed, and for the first time in a long time, he looked like the little boy who once watched his father tinker in that garage, eyes full of wonder. I wanted to reach out to him, but I couldn't. Not now. Some lessons are only learned through loss. He finally spoke, his voice cracking. "I didn't think it mattered, Mom. I thought you'd moved on." I looked at him, my throat tightening. "Moved on? From the man who built that car with his own hands? From the years of laughter and love that echoed in that garage? No, Tom. You don't move on from that. You carry it, you honor it, or you lose yourself trying to replace it with things that never last. His eyes glistened as he looked away. I could tell the weight of what he'd done was finally settling in. The room was quiet, save for the faint sound of the clock ticking on the wall. Seconds stretched into minutes. He rubbed his face, muttering softly, "I messed up, didn't I?" I didn't answer. The truth was heavy enough. Instead, I gathered the papers, slipped them back into the envelope, and stood. "The sale's invalid," I said firmly. "I've already spoken to the attorney. The car legally belongs to me, and the dealership will return it. You'll have to explain the rest to your wife." He nodded weakly, unable to meet my eyes. There was no fight left in him, only regret. For a long moment, I stood there, studying the son I had raised, wondering where the boy I once knew had gone. Maybe this was the only way for him to remember. Maybe the car had done what his father always said, it would protect what mattered most. As I walked toward the window, I saw the rain begin to fall again, soft and steady. I closed my eyes and whispered, "He kept his promise, Tom. Even now, he's still taking care of us." When I turned back, my son was staring at the documents in silence. There was no argument, no excuse, no more empty words. Just the quiet realization that some things, love, loyalty, and legacy, can never be replaced, not even by Paris. Time has a way of revealing truth, even when no one is ready to face it. Months had passed since that morning at the kitchen table, and the house had grown quiet again, but not empty. The Mustang sat safely back in the garage where it belonged, gleaming under the soft light, a living testament to the man who built it and the love that outlasted betrayal. I visited it often. Sometimes, I'd just stand there with a cup of coffee, tracing my fingers along the curve of the hood, feeling the smooth metal beneath my fingertips, remembering the way my husband used to hum softly as he worked. Life felt still again. Not perfect, not whole, but peaceful, the kind of peace that only comes after a storm. But peace rarely lasts forever. One evening, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in deep amber and gold, there was a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it slowly, and there he was, my son. Only this time, he didn't look like the confident man who once stood in that same doorway, bragging about his trip to Paris. His eyes were hollow, his clothes wrinkled, his face drawn and tired. The arrogance that once clung to him like armor was gone, replaced by something I hadn't seen in years, shame. "Mom," his voice broke on the word. I didn't know where else to go. I stood in silence, my hand resting on the edge of the door. For a moment, neither of us spoke. I could see the weight of his choices written all over him. "What happened, Tom?" I asked softly. He swallowed hard, glancing down. "It's all gone. The money, the house. Paris didn't fix anything. Sarah left last month. She said I ruined everything." He let out a bitter laugh that cracked halfway through. "She's right. I did. I lost everything, Mom. Everything." I looked at him, this man who was once my little boy, who used to run into his father's arms after school, who once helped hand his dad tools in that very garage. But somewhere along the way, he'd lost the part of himself that understood what truly mattered. And now, life had brought him back to my doorstep, hollowed out and humbled. He took a shaky breath. "Mom, I have nowhere to go." His eyes lifted, searching mine for mercy. "Please, just until I get back on my feet." I could feel my heart twisting inside me. Every part of me wanted to reach out, to tell him he was forgiven. But then I thought of the years his father spent in that garage. The dreams, the devotion, the sacrifices. I thought of the letter, the rain, the betrayal. Love doesn't always mean saying yes. Sometimes, love means protecting the memory of what was sacred. I spoke quietly but firmly. "I'm sorry, Tom. Your father made sure everything was safe from greed, even from you." He looked stunned, as if the words had struck him like a physical blow. His lips parted, but no words came out. I could see his eyes glisten as he realized what I meant. His father hadn't just left me the car or the estate. He had left me boundaries, a shield against the very pain standing before me. He stepped back, shoulders shaking. "I deserve that," he whispered. "I do." The silence between us felt endless. I could hear the sound of the evening wind moving through the trees, rustling the leaves just outside the porch. I reached into my pocket and held out a small, folded piece of paper. "This isn't money," I said softly. "It's the address of a place that helps people get back on their feet. Go there, start over. Make your father proud this time." He took the paper, his fingers trembling. For a moment, his eyes met mine, and for the first time in years, I saw something real there. Gratitude, regret, humanity. He nodded, unable to speak, and turned to leave. I watched him walk down the driveway, his figure fading into the dusk until he disappeared completely. That night, I stood in the garage again. The soft hum of the night filled the space, and I could almost feel my husband's presence beside me. The car gleamed under the light, the chrome catching reflections of the past and present all at once. I ran my hand over the hood and whispered, "You were right, darling. The car did take care of us." In the months that followed, I decided to do something meaningful, something that would honor him, not through anger or grief, but through purpose. I restored the garage, cleaned every inch of it, and hung a small wooden sign above the door that read, "The Dawson Workshop, in memory of James Dawson." Every Saturday morning, the neighborhood kids and a few retirees from down the street started coming by. Some wanted to learn about cars, others just needed a place to belong. I taught them what my husband once taught me, that a car isn't just metal and bolts, it's a reflection of care, patience, and love. Slowly, the garage became alive again, filled with laughter, the clinking of tools, and stories shared over cups of coffee. We called it the Dawson Auto Club. It wasn't grand, but it was honest. It was healing. Every time I saw those young faces light up when an engine roared back to life, I felt my husband smiling somewhere above, proud of what his legacy had become. One evening, as I closed the garage, I looked out at the fading sunset and whispered, "Revenge doesn't always need words. Sometimes, peace is the loudest victory." And for the first time in a long while, I felt free. He built that car for 18 years. But what he truly built was me. I remember the nights he stayed up late in that garage, fixing, tightening, and polishing every piece like it held our whole world together. Now, as I drive down this quiet road, I finally understand what he meant when he said, "One day, she'll run again." Just like us. He wasn't just talking about the car. He was talking about me, about finding a way to keep going when everything you love seems gone. The road ahead is long, but for the first time in years, it doesn't scare me. I can feel him beside me in every turn of the wheel, every breath I take. Love doesn't die with people. It lingers in the things they leave behind, waiting to remind us we're still capable of moving forward. Dedicated to everyone who's ever held on to a piece of love, even when the world told you to let go. Don't forget to share this story. Someone needs to hear it tonight.